it real, because keeping it real is such a ball. If keeping it real makes me sound like you, then what would I want to keep it real for?
No Man's Sky is out. It's a game that's been hotly anticipated for a very long time by a huge number of people, myself included. Now that it's finally out and people are getting to wrangle with the game itself, opinion appears to be starkly divided over whether it's any good, whether it's buggy, what kind of game that it is. Expectations have not matched reality. So, is it a good game? In my humble opinion, this is a very, very good game. This is everything I always wanted from games like Elite. Here you get to actually explore a full universe where everything is different. There's always something new. The graphics are amazing, not that there aren't issues with them. The gameplay is satisfying, and just the sensation of being in this huge world, universe is transcendent almost. It's a very deep experience if you're in the right mindset for it, and I'll cover that more later. For people who like to be directed in games, I can see where there might be something lacking, but for those of us who like to just explore and kind of get into a flow, relax, get into a sort of zen space with our games, there you get something special out of No Man's Sky, the same way you do from games like Minecraft or survival games, where there's no directed gameplay, but rather you're free to explore and make your own story to an extent. So the good side of this is that it's an amazing technical feat, for one. It is unprecedented in its scale and scope. The graphics are incredible most of the time. The space battles are satisfying. The dogfighting is interesting. The sensation of being in this huge, colourful universe, it's like stepping into a science fiction cover by Roger Dean or Tim White or someone like that. So you definitely get that sensation, you get that idea of scale, and you get that sense of being in an enormous, largely uncaring universe. So it's very, very pretty, it's very, very different in a lot of ways, though you could say that it's derivative of Elite to an extent, or Spore, or you could say it's a bit like being on a trip, dropping a tab of acid. All of these things combine to create something unique, though, and it's clear that the people who made it very much believed in the project and set to it and went after it with a clear vision in mind, and that's a rare and precious thing in gaming, to have that focus when it's not stemming from something political and not becoming something preachy. Here there was an artistic vision, and they really went for it, and they really believed in it, and it shows. So is this a good game? Yes, I would buy it. I intend to spend a great deal of time playing it, exploring it, just experiencing it, without even particularly focusing on the supposed goal. There's lore there, you have to kind of eke it out, but the main thing for me is just this experience of open exploration of this huge, breathtaking universe, teeming with life and landscapes and stars and nebulae, and just that's what takes my breath away, that awe and spectacle of the universe and the sheer scale of what they've accomplished here. And for that alone, I think it's worth it. This isn't to say by any stretch that the game does not have problems. These problems appear to be more acute, or at least more complained about on the PC than they are on the PS4, which is where I've been playing. So what are these problems? Well, firstly, if you're not in the right kind of mindset to play this game, you're probably going to have a very dull experience. It's rather directionless. It's more about moments than it is about meeting targets or quest lines or anything like that. It's about finding your own fun within the universe. So for people who prefer a lot more direction in their games, that's going to be a huge minus for them. Graphically, there are some problems, but this is due to the nature of the game more than anything else, I think. The draw distance is not particularly huge, especially when you get down onto planets. This is when you notice it. As it's calculating the area surrounding you, it fades in, and this is something we were used to maybe 2 generations of consoles or computers back, but these days it's incredibly jarring to see the world being drawn in around you, and fairly close to where you are compared to other modern games. Now this is probably an aspect of the procedural generation, and it might be better on very, very high-end PCs that can run calculations faster, but on the PlayStation at least, and on the footage I've seen of PC play, it does seem to be a problem, and for some people that's, that kind of graphical issue, that's going to be insurmountable. When the graphics are rendered, however, and when you're up close to them, they look pretty good. One other problem with the graphics that I've been noticing relates to the creatures and the plants. While this procedural generation promises a universe of, very different worlds, very different ecosystems and so on, you do find a lot of the same elements being used over and over again. This is particularly noticeable with the plants that give you particular bonuses or drop particular resources when you pick them. These are pretty much the same on every single planet. And you'll also find assets being reused constantly, from trees to what looks like a giant microbe, and so on and so on. So there's not quite the sheer level of variety that you might have felt that you were promised. This is even more noticeable really with the creatures, which tend to follow a set of body patterns that are the same from world to world to world. While this is probably a product in the game of convergent evolution, it does kind of stand out. You'll constantly meet cowoids and caninoids and other creatures that follow familiar body patterns from world to world to world. So there's just not quite enough variety, at least not that I've experienced yet, but I've only been to perhaps a dozen worlds, so perhaps there's more. I did find a bouncing testicle monster, which suggests that there are stranger creatures out there, they just might be more rare. Still, this is something I think Spore did better for all the faults with that game. The creatures that you could come up with, the creatures that you encountered, were much more varied, strange, and alien. I would have liked to have seen Dougal Dixon be consulted on this. I think he could have given some valuable and interesting insights. Still, all these complaints are largely small potatoes. One thing I do find troublesome is that you're presented with this vast empty universe, but it's not empty, but it's also not full. There are alien civilizations everywhere, but they're scattered from world to world to world, and from space station to space station, all in these tiny little camps that are scattered across the surface of, it seems, every single world. Perhaps that changes as you get closer to the centre of the universe. Perhaps you find more completely abandoned worlds, where it's harder to trade items or find extra resources that other people have already collected for you that you can steal. Maybe that changes from world to world to world. We'll have to see as we play deeper into the game. But it does seem odd to find all these stations and bases and so on everywhere, lots of them abandoned, and all of them at home to perhaps at most one single alien, though there are plenty of ships flying around. It would be nice to see more aliens moving around, more things to interact with on that kind of basis. One particular area in which I've faced a great deal of frustration is that one of the main big features of this is being able to discover things and name them, but I have found the profanity filter to be rather too sensitive, in the entirely decent and normal and uncontroversial names that I've named things have been picked up by the profanity filter and blocked. and that is immensely frustrating. Personally, I think they should have just let people name systems fucknuts and whatever. I don't think it really matters, but for those of you who want to name things properly, the filter can get in the way and be a huge source of frustration. There's only so much a review can tell you. This is a brilliant game, in my opinion. It is a massive technical accomplishment, it's an enormous universe, it's beautiful, it's pretty. To me, it's engaging. But I'm the kind of person that likes this kind of Zen-like experience of games. You know, the game I've been playing the most in recent memory is Minecraft, and I'm not working towards a goal there. I'm just pootling about, exploring, digging, and this provides the similar kind of hit for me that Minecraft and other directionless survival type games hit. But also, I love science fiction art, so I think more than a traditional review, more than that kind of effort, I think people benefit from advice on how to play, how to get the most out of this. And I think, for me, that's about the moments. It's not about the goal. It's landing somewhere pretty and taking in the view. It's discovering a new creature that's different from all the others and looks like it makes sense. It's entering the atmosphere of a planet for the first time and seeing the landscape unfold before you. It's discovering an important new word or some alien ruins, or going into the water for the first time and seeing some different creatures. It's spotting a ship that you really, really want and then realizing you don't have enough money and you're never going to see that ship again. Yeah, it's all these moments. That's what you're playing for, these specific momentary experiences where you kind of fade into the game when you're immersed in it. You know, one of the most satisfying things, and though it's something other people have criticised, is lasering your way through a huge chunk of metal and chewing the whole thing away down until there's none left. Somehow that's therapeutic in a way. So the mindset you need to get the most from this game is to just kind of go with the flow and be accepting and live in the moment and think about the experience that you're having, what you're doing, where you are in the universe, how big it is, how many millions of other people are playing at the same time, and yet maybe you've seen no sign of anybody else. I mean, there is no proper, true multiplayer, but you will find discoveries that other people have made and the names that they've named things, and you'll understand that someone else has trod here before you. And that will be a moment I'm looking forward to, encountering something someone else has discovered, seeing what they've named things. I'm wondering when people are going to discover things that I've discovered and that I've named. It really is, when you approach it with that mindset, a beautiful kind of experience. It's not something you need to play intensely, it's not something you need to attack and set your... and really go for goals in it. You don't have to even bother going to the centre of the universe. Indeed, you'll be rewarded for going off track and exploring elsewhere. There always seems to be something new, and while a lot of it is familiar and there probably isn't enough variety in the procedural generation as I would like, there's definitely rarer things out there, things to discover, new things to see, new vistas, new sights, new sounds, new music even. It's all been procedurally generated, so there's always some new novel experience. You just have to adopt the right mindset, live in the moment, and just kind of see what the game serves up to you, really. For a lot of us, that's an amazing, brilliant experience, and I'm definitely hooked. I've been playing nothing but for quite a few days now. So, in the final kind of analysis, and I sound terribly hippie-ish, I know, but I do think this is an absolutely amazing accomplishment and an amazing game. And I've definitely been rewarded by coming to it. I did come with high expectations, and they were slightly disappointed, but over the days since that initial impression, I've grown to love it, and I can see myself playing and playing and playing for some time to come. I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way, and I hope we all continue to share our stories. Because that's what it is. It's an experience and stories and moments that you can share. And it's on that basis that I recommend it to people. If you like what I do here, please like, subscribe. You can find me on social media, on Twitter at Grimachu, James Desborough on Facebook, James Grim Desborough on G+. My main website is postmortemstudios.wordpress.com. If you want to help me out with a little money, which will go to support my games, writing and other projects, you can do so at Patreon, which is also Grimachu.